So this is a selection from Dogen's writings called Shobogenzo, Treasury of the True Dharma Eye, put together by Kazuaki Tanahashi, who also edited this book, and who is this person. He is the ink brush artist, and this is an example of the brush work. And this is the audio version of selections from here, read by Gary Snyder, the beat poet, who is, I believe, now 90 years old at this time. The last living person, one of the last living from that era, who was in the book On the Road by Jack Kerouac as the character Jaffe Ryder. And he went to Japan as a very young man and helped with translating, I think, as Ruth Fuller Sasaki's Zen Dust. So his readings are very good, and I've listened to this hundreds of times, I would say, during commute. And a lot of times I don't pay attention, but occasionally, after hundreds of listenings, you get to see a little bit of the humor and the mind of Dogen. He's a fairly humorous guy. And this essay, Only Buddha and Buddha, Yuibutsu, Yobutsu, 161. It's been a while since I listened to it, but I remember listening to this and thinking, wow, this is really, he's saying something really profound that has, implications for reality that, okay. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just the parts that struck me. So there's a question here at the beginning. Buddha Dharma cannot be known by a person. What is that? What does that mean? That we are people are trying to understand Buddha Dharma, but it cannot be done? No practitioner of the lesser vehicles has mastered Buddha Dharma. Because it is realized by Buddhas alone, it is said, only a Buddha and a Buddha can thoroughly master it. When you realize Buddha Dharma, you do not think, this is realization just as I expected. Even if you think so, realization invariably differs from your expectation. Realization is not like your conception of it. Accordingly, realization cannot take place as previously conceived. When you realize Buddha Dharma, you do not consider how realization came about. You should reflect on this, what you think one way or another before realization is not a help for realization. So this is really throwing cold water on all of us who love these theories of what's going on and, why and how and what is enlightenment all about, and theoretical ideas of relating it to quantum physics, blah, blah, blah. He's saying what you think one way or another before realization is not a help for realization. Because when you realize the Buddha Dharma, you do not think, this is realization just as I expected. Realization invariably differs from your expectation. That's a pretty neat sentiment. I mean, a warning against over-intellectualization. And then he says, but although realization is not like any of the thoughts preceding it, it's not because such thoughts were actually bad and could not be realization. Past thoughts in themselves were already realization. But since you were seeking elsewhere, you thought and said that thoughts cannot be realization. However, it is worth noticing that what you think one way or another is not a help for realization. Then you are cautious not to be small-minded. And if that is not an exhortation that's worth remembering, that is the main point of science, really, over the last 200 years. We should be cautious not to be small-minded, because nature has a way of waking us up out of our small-mindedness. So realization does not depend on thoughts, but comes forth far beyond them. Realization is helped only by the power of realization itself. Know then that there is no delusion, and there is no realization. This part I also like, about being unstained. When a Buddha has unsurpassed wisdom, it is called unsurpassed wisdom. Not to know what it is like on this path is foolish. What it is like is to be unstained. To be unstained does not mean that you try forcefully to exclude intention or discrimination, or that you establish a state of non-intention. Being unstained cannot be intended or discriminated at all. Being unstained is like meeting a person and not considering what they look like. Also, it is like not wishing for more color or brightness when viewing flowers or the moon. So being unstained is like the mirror awareness. You are seeing without projecting, like meeting a person and not considering what they look like, and not being attraction or aversion from appearance. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, if we could all just see people without the annoying, perpetual judging and attraction and aversion. So it's hard to see if he has, a logical progression here. It's kind of hard to follow through, but then he recites a koan. Sometimes his koans in the middle of the essay seem kind of random, like this one is. So he's gone through this exposition, then he comes to his koan he wants to recite. He says, long ago, a monk asked an old master, when hundreds, thousands, or myriads of objects come all at once, what should be done? The master replied, don't try to control them. What he means is that whatever way objects come, do not try to change them. Whatever comes is the Buddha Dharma, not objects at all. Do not understand the master's reply as merely a brilliant admonition, but realize that it is the truth. Even if you try to control what comes, it cannot be controlled. That's a statement about the reality of phenomena that we are encountering. Whatever comes is the Buddha Dharma, not objects at all. Here's another one. This one I like. An ancient Buddha said, the mountains, rivers, and earth are born at the same moment with each person. All Buddhas of the three worlds are practicing together with each person. But if we look at the mountains, rivers, and earth when a person is born, his birth does not seem to be bringing forth additional mountains, rivers, and earth on top of the existing ones. Yet the ancient Buddha's word cannot be mistaken. And so how should we understand this? Even if you do not understand it, you should not ignore it. So be determined to understand it. Since this word is already expounded, you should listen to it. Listen until you understand. This is how to understand. Is there anyone who knows what his birth and his beginning or end is like? No one knows either birth's end or its beginning. Nevertheless, everyone is born. Similarly, no one knows the extremities of the mountains, rivers, and earth. But all see this place and walk here. Do not think with regret that the mountains, rivers, and earth are not born with you. Understand that the ancient Buddha teaches that your birth is not separate from the mountains, rivers, and earth. See, that's our awareness that arises when we're born is the entire universe arising. You may have doubts about this, but the ancient Buddha's word was expounded in order to clarify your confused thinking. Do not think that Buddhas are other than you. According to this teaching, when all Buddhas of the three worlds arouse the thought of enlightenment and practice, they never exclude our body and mind. You should understand this. To doubt this is to slander the Buddhas of the three worlds. When we reflect on the past and future of our body and mind, we cannot find the boundary of self or others. That's really profound. He's talking about, in what sense are there others when we're born? This is just another who is born. So let us resolve our doubts about this and trust in the Buddha's word.